Hello everyone. It's time for my first monthly wrap up of 2024. Somehow January felt like a second and 2 years, so I'm glad that's over. And now we're just gonna chat about the books I read. Before I start talking about the books specifically, let's just go over really brief stats. Let's see. Okay, so in terms of genre spread, I read 3 romance, 2 YA fantasy, 1 horror. It's categorized as horror slash historical fiction slash romance, so kind of its own thing, but I think it's primarily supposed to be a horror novel. So 1 horror novel and 1 thriller. So total I read 7 books, which is very good for me. Obviously at the beginning of the year everyone's feeling so motivated to read, and it helps when you like start off picking books that you're really confident you're gonna like. I feel like I said this in my tier ranking video, I feel like now I have more of a sense, now that I've had like 1 really solid reading year, I have so much more of a sense of the kind of books that I'm gonna like. I'm doing such a better job of picking them and preventing slumps by picking good books. Revolutionary, I know. Oh, and then just in terms of 1 general stat that I want to do a check-in with every month, in terms of my 24 books that I'd like to read in 2024 list, I only checked off 1 book from that list, but 1 is better than 0, so I'm gonna take it. Ideally I would be reading 2 per month, so technically in the month of February I'm gonna have to do 3 unless I'm really gonna want to play catch up later in the year. I'll be focusing on that, I think, next month. Okay, so that's it for stats. So very basic, very simple, to the point stats section, but it's fun. I really like seeing the spread of what I'm getting to each month. But now, without further ado, let's actually talk about the books themselves, because I have some good ones to talk about this month. Okay, so first and foremost, on literally January 1st, I binged The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I have realized that I love Riley Sager. I read The House Across the Lake in the fall, and then obviously this one first thing this year. Ate them both up. They were both so much fun. I think I liked this one better than House Across the Lake, which is kind of crazy because I know a lot of people like kind of talk about this one as like not his best work, but truly these days when a thriller can really engage me and just feel like such a fun, unique time, I want to rate it so high, because to me, like towards the end of last year, actually I guess more like towards the middle of last year, I was kind of getting burnt out of reading thrillers because they all felt sort of the same to me. This one and House Across the Lake have really spiced up the genre for me. So if you don't know what this one is about, basically we follow main character Kit McDeer. She is an at-home caregiver and she is assigned to take care of Lenora Hope, who in this area of like coastal Maine is sort of like an infamous, like larger than life name, sort of like Lizzie Borden, in that she was accused of killing her parents and her sister, I want to say like 70 years ago, and she was never found guilty of the crime itself, but she was kind of like convicted in the community. Basically the story follows Kit. She's assigned to take care of Lenora almost as like punishment because her last patient that was in her care died under suspicious circumstances, and she's being given like a second chance and also a punishment in this assignment of taking care of Lenora. Lenora's had like several strokes, so she can't really communicate. She's not mobile. She only has the use of 1 of her hands, and over the course of the story, Kit kind of convinces her to use a typewriter to tell her side of the story of what happened to her family all those years ago. And obviously there's a lot of twists and turns, very Riley Sager-esque plot twists at the very end. I had so much fun. Truly, the vibes were immaculate. It feels very gothic because it's taking place at this mansion that's genuinely like in the process of falling into the ocean. It's kind of spooky. There's like an ensemble of characters. I don't know, it really worked for me. I had a blast. I think I might have given it 4.5 stars. Yeah. I gave this 4.5 stars. I had such a good time. Like, am I saying this is a perfect work of fiction? No. But did I have an absolute blast, and would I recommend it to anyone that likes a thriller? 100%. Like, this is the kind of thing that if it hits you at the right time, it could really pull you out of a slump. It's a very quick, fast-paced, digestible read. It's so much fun. The plot twists are so outlandish. It's a blast. I had so much fun and I would highly recommend it. Okay, book number 1. Okay, up next, I actually listened to an audiobook of The Raven Boys, which is the first book in the Raven Cycle series. I read this series when I was in early high school. I never finished it. I think I only read the first 2 books, maybe the first 3. I used to blog about it. It was a very popular Tumblr series just because it's such a unique and like vibes-based story, I would say. It's a young adult fantasy, and basically it's about like a group of boys called the Raven Boys, and the main character Gansey is on the hunt for a sleeping, I think it's Irish king. I can't remember. What is the lore? Anyways, he's on a quest to find like a sleeping king that supposedly will grant you a wish if you wake him. And the boys are kind of just his crew. They go along, they help him. He's the leader of the pack. And then our main character, Blue, is a young woman whose family is full of psychics. Blue specifically has always been told by her family that if she kisses her true love, he will die. And she's always known that. She goes with her family to a cemetery on St. Mark's Eve, which is basically the night where they get to see ghosts or the spirits of all the people that are going to die in the upcoming year. And she sees Ganzi's spirit. Obviously, this sends her on the path of finding him in the real world, getting involved in their hunt, and it just becomes like an incredible story of found family, and it's like very magical and it's very good. I listened to it on a really long road trip with my mom, and I wasn't really sure if she was vibing the whole time, which, you know, sometimes detracts from the experience, but honestly, I still had such a good time listening to it, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. I think like back in the day, I didn't really like it as much. Like reading it now, I can really appreciate like the craft. It's just really, really good. I'm very impressed, and I'm really excited to continue the series. So I do want to buy physical copies, but I have to say I don't mind the audiobook. Anyways, I had a blast, so very excited to continue with that this year. Next, I read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, which was my first Abby Jimenez book. I listened to the first half of it in the car with my mom on that same road trip, and then I ended up finishing it when I got home with the actual physical copy, but I was borrowing my roommate's copy, so I don't have it with me to hold up. This was another great time. Like I had such a blast. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I thought it was very, very sweet. I'm obsessed with the love interest. Basically, if you've never heard of Yours Truly before or don't know what it's about, main character Brianna works in the ER at a hospital. She's up for a promotion to basically run the entire ER, and then this man named Jacob, Dr. Jacob, arrives. He's transferred from another hospital, and she finds out that they're up for the same job. They start off on the wrong foot, and simultaneously her younger brother has been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that has led to him needing a kidney transplant. So she's dealing with a lot. She's dealing with a lot of change, a lot of stress in her life, and the addition of this guy that she thinks is like an asshole is really not helping things. Does she know though that he's not actually an asshole? He's just an incredibly anxious person. They actually end up communicating through letters and notes to each other, which is literally like the sweetest thing in the whole world. And obviously the story unfolds. There's like a little bit of fake dating. There's a little bit of enemies to lovers, actually enemies to friends to lovers, I guess. But overall, I had a great time. I thought it was cute. I thought it was very sweet. There were parts that were making me like giggle and swoon just because like Jacob is like, he's a perfect angel. I love him so much. And then towards the end, like a lot happens. A lot happens, I want to say in like the last 70 pages that just feels very, just kind of felt like we were losing the plot a little bit, but maybe that was just me. But either way, there were enough things that kind of threw me off a little bit towards the end that I settled on a 4-star rating. I still had a great time, and I did binge end of it, and I did cry. It's one of those stories that really hit all the right emotional beats. So I had a great time. I would recommend it, and I'm very excited to give more of Abby Jimenez's books a try. But yeah, anyways, that was Yours Truly. Okay, next I reread Happy Place. Miss Happy Place by Miss Emily Henry. I love this book. Like this is a 6-star. This is a 6-star for me. I just love it so much. I love this book. I love Emily Henry. This is one of those things where when I read it in the summer when it came out, I binged it so quickly and I was so excited about it that I had sort of forgotten everything about it almost immediately. So when I listened to the first half of it and then finished the rest physically rereading it, so when I re-experienced it, it was like I was experiencing it for the first time, and it was just, it hits like it's so good. If you don't know what the story is, basically follows our main character Harriet, who is part of this friend group. They've all been really close friends since college, and she had been engaged to a member of their friend group named Wynn, and she and Wynn actually broke off their engagement about 3 to 6 months ago. They hadn't told any of their friends or really anyone in their lives yet, and when she arrives at the summer house of one of her friends where their entire friend group visits every summer, anticipating to break the news to them and tell them that Wynn is not coming because they had agreed that she would be the one to take the trip, she sees him standing there and she's like, wait, what's going on? Turns out 2 of their friends are getting married. It's their last trip at the beach house and they need to make the most of the experience. They agree to keep up the ruse that they're still engaged, lie to their friends to make the week as amazing as possible for everyone involved. And obviously that results in them having to sort of work out their stuff and finally talk about what really went wrong with them. So very emotional, very good. I love them. I love Wynn. I love Harriet. I feel very seen by her. Like I feel like Emily Henry does such a good job of creating characters that really feel like reflections of real life people. Like obviously the miscommunication tropes that happen in books can get very taxing because you're like, why don't you people just speak to each other? But the thing is, a lot of the reasonings and like thought processes that Harriet had in this book, I was like, damn it, if I haven't had a thought like that. You know what I mean? It's just Emily Henry's brand. I want to kiss it. 6-star read. I will never get enough of her books. I'm so excited for Funny Story coming out this year. It's just, I'm so excited. And if you haven't read this yet, what are you doing? Okay, next I read A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I've been putting this off for so long because I wanted to be able to do a reading vlog of it, which I did. So if you want to see in-depth thoughts and feelings about it, obviously there's a full-length reading vlog of just this book. I went ahead and gave this one 4 stars. I had a blast. If you are unfamiliar with the story of this book, which I feel like most people are at this point, but I wasn't, so let me tell you. It follows main character Feyre, who lives in this world where humans and fairies kind of coexist, but they're living in the wake of conflict that happened a long time ago that sort of left their land divided. And Feyre is out hunting for her family one day where she stumbles upon a wolf and kills it to protect the town, but she finds out shortly after that it was actually a fairy, and a fairy arrives to punish her for taking the wolf's life and takes her to his realm, the fairy realm, as punishment. And it's very much, in the beginning at least, a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I had forgotten until I really started getting into it, and then I was like, wait, this feels so familiar. I really didn't write down anything while I was reading because I was filming everything that I was feeling, but overall I had a great time. I'm very excited to continue the series, and this was actually the one book that I read off of my 24 books in 2024 list, so very excited to have checked that off. So that's this one. Okay, next I read Vampires of El Norte, which is the horror novel. It's like horror, historical fiction, romance. It's kind of got it all. Also the cover, are you kidding? I actually bought this in the end of year Barnes & Noble sale. I had a book to exchange that my parents had given me for Christmas, and I also kind of got a little carried away because they were having 30% off hardcover, so I bought this and one other one, but I think I already read it. Which one was the other one? Oh, the only one left was the other one that I bought. But I bought this on a whim because it was one of the books that was on sale at Barnes & Noble, but also I had seen a TikTok about it literally 2 days before of this person just absolutely raving about it. I had genuinely never heard of it before, but something that she had said just kind of like stuck with me and made me want to try it for myself. So let me see if I can summarize this. Hi, I'm back. Sorry, somebody was at my front door. So this takes place during the Mexican-American War in Mexico, and it's during the time of the vaqueros where there's Mexican cowboys and Mexican ranchers. There's like a whole social class system that revolves around that. Our 2 main characters are named Nena and Nestor, and basically when they were 12 or 13 years old, I believe, they were like best friends. Nestor is the son of the vaqueros that work on Nena's father's ranch, and basically them being super close, being besties, doesn't really sit well with Nena's parents and her family. She has very strong feelings for Nestor. They're not like dating because they're very young, but they very clearly care for each other, and her family really doesn't like that. One night when they're 12 or 13, I believe, they're going to go look for gold from one of the stories one of the abuelas has told them. They're basically attacked by this creature. It attacks Nena, and Nestor takes her back. As far as he knows, she dies. In the wake of that, obviously he flees the ranch. He knows he's going to face the wrath of the family, so he runs off and he believes Nena to be dead. Fast forward 10 years later, Nena has stayed on her father's ranch. She thinks that he just abandoned her. He thinks she's dead. And then when word of the brewing Mexican-American War comes and they realize that they're going to have to defend their land from the invading Yankees, Nestor comes back to help his family members that still work on the ranch, and he realizes Nena's still alive. He realizes she's been alive the whole time. He's been mourning her for 10 years and she's still alive, okay? I tell you, the yearning and the tension and the longing in this book, like, it really hits. It really hits in that sense. Like, the romance, I was eating it up, okay? It's so good. It's so good. That was the selling point of the TikTok that I'd seen. Like, she was raving about how the romance made her feel, and she was not wrong. She was not wrong. These two had me wrapped around their little finger. Can Nestor say one clear sentence to communicate to Nena how broken he's been about this all these years? And the answer is no, because he's bad at verbalizing his emotion, okay? So it drags out, like, in the best way. I ended up settling on 4 stars for this. There were certain aspects of it that I think I would have liked a little bit more from. Obviously, the main horror component of this is the vampires, and in this, vampires are just pure creatures, like creatures of nightmare that suck blood and kill things. So they're not like humanoid creatures. Like, that's not really what this is. It's more like the people that we care about in this story are simultaneously fighting the Americans that are trying to invade, and then also these creatures that have been running rampant unbeknownst to people. Like a war story, and it feels very much historical fiction with like hints of horror, which is also very interesting. I loved that it was short and sweet because it was like easier to digest, even though it was very like historical fiction in nature. But I definitely feel like I could have rated it higher if the story had felt just like a little bit more developed. Like, I think it's perfect for what it is in terms of like being a standalone, and it works really well. But I do think it could have been fleshed out a bit more, I guess. It has very much like Latin Western Gothic, like it's very, very unique, like not like anything I've ever read before. So I really liked that aspect of it. I just wanted more. I don't know how to explain it. this has made me more excited to read more like gothic horror vibes things. So highly recommend if it sounds like something up your alley. Okay, and then lastly, I did go ahead and move forward with getting a Kindle Unlimited subscription on my phone, and I did move forward with starting a book on my Kindle Unlimited app that I do not physically own, and that is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This has been on my list for so long, and for some reason at the end of last year I wasn't really in like a rom-com-y romance mood. That sort of shifted, I feel like, in the first few weeks of January, which is really interesting, and I'm feeling more drawn to romance again, clearly, since I read 3 this month. But yeah, this has been on my list for a long time. I've been putting it off, but I've heard Haley Pham specifically rave about Catherine Center as a writer, and more often than not, Haley and I actually have very similar tastes, so it's been in the back of my mind that I needed to give her a try. I started with The Bodyguard. It was very cute. And I honestly didn't feel much for it beyond that. It was super fun, fluffy, cute, like silly, and that was about it for me. Basically, the premise is our main character is a bodyguard. She works for like, they call it like an executive protector, I think, something like that. Organization where they're assigned like high profile individuals to protect, and oftentimes they have to like integrate themselves into the person's life. There is this famous Hollywood actor guy who is going to be staying in Houston, Texas area to take care of his mom while she undergoes treatment for her cancer. He's had like, you know, some stalking, some threats, things like that. So his management wants him to hire protection. Our main character, Hannah, is assigned to his case. She ends up actually having to pose as his girlfriend because he specifically doesn't want his family to know that there is a threat. There is fake dating, forced proximity, and it's kind of just really fun. Like, it was clear that we were supposed to be hitting some emotional beats that for some reason just weren't really like clicking for me. The family side of things could have been developed more. I really appreciated the relationship between Hannah and Jack. Like, I thought it was very sweet, very cute, but I like still wanted a little bit more depth to it. Also, for me personally, the banter like really wasn't working. I usually, when there's like banter in rom-coms, I'm like giggling, but for some reason like it wasn't even that I was getting cringed out. I was just like confused. In so many of their exchanges, Jack would be like dying laughing at something Hannah had said or done, and I was like, wait. And that's just me being cynical maybe and like picky, like nitpicky, but it kept taking me out because it happened very often. Like, one of the main things was that he like loved that she made him laugh, which is so fair. Absolutely love that for you, King. However, it was not coming off the page that way to me. Anyways, I ended up settling on 3.5 stars. I would recommend it. I think it was cute. I think it was fun. It's not that it was a bad book by any stretch of the imagination. It's just like, I think, like I said, a lot of the emotional side of things and the comedy side of things just like weren't quite hitting for me personally. Yeah. I definitely will be trying another Catherine Center book at some point because I do want to see if like some of her other books, or maybe even Hello Stranger, hit harder for me, because I would really like for that to be the case. It's just this one specifically maybe didn't. So anyways, that's it. So again, I read 7 books this month. It was a great reading month. I had an overall great experience. I wasn't having to slog through anything. I was giggling, I was crying, I was just having a great time. I am very confident about February. I think I have a great TBR, and I also am just still feeling very motivated to keep finding great reads, like things that just make me feel very excited about the overall journey. And yeah, anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Bye.